Welcome to a Fuse Logic TV special, what I'm calling the Wheelchair Dare Special, presented in association with Muscular Dystrophy Canada. My special guest is Kelly Hyde, who is the Alberta Manager of Corporate and Individual Giving for Muscular Dystrophy Canada. We have quite a show lined up today.
Absolutely.
The whole purpose is to raise awareness of this special event that we're going to talk about throughout the course of the show, the Wheelchair Dare event, which is becoming quite popular. So we're going to hear about some of the ins and outs and strategies for those that are participating. And you can also check out the website for Muscular Dystrophy Canada is muscular.ca, and there is an actual, if you want to bring that up, Evan, for us, there is information on the Wheelchair Dare event. You can enter here, and there are different regions. This region, of course, where we are right now is Edmonton. You can also enter based in Calgary. We're going to have several special guests on the show today, and among them we're going to have Nancy Cumming, who is with Muscular Dystrophy Canada. We're going to have as well Darcy Pawliuk, who's a sales manager from the Prairie region, Bell Business Markets. Christopher Wein, president of UGB Multifamily Operations. Bernie Kollman, the Edmonton chair of the Chamber of Commerce, is going to be stopping by. Paul McGonigal, a fireman with a heart and a lot of involvement with muscular dystrophy, will be telling his story as well. And Garry Bell from Calgary will be Skyping in later in the program. Kelly, let's get some background. How long have you been connected now with Muscular Dystrophy Canada, and tell us a little bit about your connection to the Wheelchair Dare event?
So I've been involved with Muscular Dystrophy Canada either as a volunteer or as a contractor for 6 years now, ever since my nephew was diagnosed with a very severe form of muscular dystrophy called Duchenne muscular dystrophy, and it's been a very rewarding experience working with other families, with the staff at Muscular Dystrophy Canada, as well as the corporate world, who's really, very integral in making sure that we can meet our objectives, as well as the firefighters. So I'm happy that we have a presence here today from Paul.
And he has an interesting story as to how the firefighters got involved and how that basically proliferated throughout Canada. So I'm very excited to talk to him about that. One thing I found interesting in visiting Muscular Dystrophy's site, which is muscular.ca, and by the way, we are inviting you to get involved in the Wheelchair Dare event if you haven't already done so. You can also make donations by going to muscle.ca, which is the website, or you can donate $5 just by texting the word chair to 30333. I was quite fascinated in reading the site. To be honest, I had not been that connected to Muscular Dystrophy Canada, other than being aware that about muscular dystrophy through advertisements and that kind of thing. But I was amazed at how many different types of muscular dystrophy there are, and so I think that there are probably many different stories out there. It's not just one thing, and there's a number of things. Are people generally aware of that, or do you find, or no?
No, and until I was personally impacted, I wasn't aware. But you're right, Michael. There's 100 different neuromuscular disorders under the umbrella of muscular dystrophy. They impact people at different ages, different times. It's a genetic disease, but it can impact you later in life. But a lot of the more severe ones, children are diagnosed at a very young age, and often it's life-threatening, and they don't get to live a full life. So what Muscular Dystrophy Canada does is help raise funds that are important for research, equipment, services, and treatments, which often actually help prolong the life of those individuals. And so the Wheelchair Dare is a very important fundraiser, and it's exciting to have this profiled on your show today.
Well, it's a wonderful event, and how long has it been held now?
So in Calgary, we've done it for 3 years, and I believe in Edmonton this is the 2nd year, but I'll have to be honest, even though I'm from Calgary, Edmonton's raising a lot more money than we are. So.
Way to go, Edmonton. Way to go, Edmonton. It's in Alberta.
But it really is an Alberta initiative, absolutely.
And I understand that the dollars that are raised are essentially, it's an Alberta context, so that the dollars are spread throughout the system to reach those people with muscular dystrophy, whether they're in Edmonton or Calgary, wherever they may be,
absolutely.
Right?
And we are a national organization. We do the Wheelchair Dare as well, and in other regions as well. So it's becoming really a national initiative, but I'm responsible for Alberta. So.
Well, it's an incredibly interesting event. Of course, Nancy Cumming will be explaining a little bit more about where the event originated and the kind of connection it makes, because it's very interesting in talking to people in advance of this particular show. It was interesting to hear some of the stories that people have told, and also the stories of people that are going to be participating who have yet to even try it. And I've been asking people, how are your wheelchair skills, kind of thing, and they're going, I don't know, it's going to be a surprise. It's certainly not as easy as, I mean, it's certainly, it's a skill to learn ultimately. And I think it's wonderful that this is an event that makes that connection. Now, we're going to be going into a video that was produced for Muscular Dystrophy Canada. It tells a good story. Maybe give me some background on the video. I understand that you're quite integrally involved.
Yeah, absolutely. What happens is often families are, they have a loved one who's diagnosed, and so they're really looking for information. They're looking for some support. They don't know where to turn, so they often come to Muscular Dystrophy Canada. And so this video just provides a really nice synopsis of what we're about, what we do, and how we can support families. It profiles the research that we're doing. It profiles the medical community. It profiles what the firefighters do. So really it just provides, for me, newly diagnosed families with some information on what we do. And then we can actually take the various segments apart if someone's just curious about what research we do and share those. And so in this case, we're showing the short version, but we actually do have a longer version for anyone who wants to know more about what Muscular Dystrophy Canada is all about.
Now, before we play the clip, just one last question, if you're aware of. Have there been significant advances that have come from the research that's been done of late, or is it still a challenging process? I
would say it's both. I know for sure my nephew is on certain steroids, and he's been part of a clinical trial at the Alberta Children's Hospital in Calgary, and that's encouraging. And the steroids he's on is slowing down the progression, and there's certainly the children that are diagnosed with what he has are living longer. They used to just live till their early teens, and now, they're living into their early 20s, and even I knew two gentlemen who reached 30 that have Duchenne. So the treatments come from the research, and they are slowing down the progression of the disease. But we don't have a cure yet, but that's why we're doing things like this.
Exactly. That's why we're doing this, to raise money. Kelly Hyde is my guest, so she'll be joining me later on in the program. She's the Alberta Manager of Corporate and Individual Giving for Muscular Dystrophy Canada. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about muscular dystrophy and people's personal experiences and what corporations are doing and the involvement of people within the community. In the meantime, I invite you to take a look at this special presentation video that was developed with Kelly Hyde's input. This is for Muscular Dystrophy Canada.
Muscular dystrophy refers to a group of genetic diseases. It can really affect anyone, and it can start at any age. There are over 100 different specific types of conditions under this umbrella that we call muscular dystrophy. And specific disorders in this group can be very different. And I think it's also good to know that sometimes individuals with the same condition can also be affected differently. Muscular dystrophy can be a condition that passes on from one generation to the next generation. It can also happen to anyone, a single individual without any family history of muscle disease. And this is because of the change in a particular gene related to muscle function. There is right now not yet a cure for muscular dystrophy. Physical therapy, regular exercise, good nutrition, supportive devices such as braces and wheelchair, and in some cases corrective surgery can help to maintain muscle function and also to improve the quality of life of those individuals who are involved.
Don't give up hope. There is life after muscular dystrophy. You just have to be persistent and try a little bit harder. And I know firsthand you can have a very happy and fulfilling life.
Muscular Dystrophy Canada's staff and volunteers are committed to improving the lives of people with neuromuscular disorders through a number of services. We are here to provide you with the information and support you need to manage your disorder, increase your independence, and improve the overall quality of your life.
If you are impacted by a neuromuscular disorder or provide support for someone who is, there are many ways that you can get help. Their caring staff and volunteers will listen to the challenges that you or a loved one are facing. They can provide advice and direction about how to access the best care and equipment. And it's done in a way that makes you feel valued and supported.
If you're not a client, it's very easy to register. The best part is becoming a client is free. Let us do what we do best, provide services for our clients and those who love and care for them.
In 1954, when Muscular Dystrophy Canada was established, people with muscular dystrophy live short and painful lives.
Today, while there's no cure for this debilitating disorder that we call muscular dystrophy, patients live longer with a much improved quality of life. It is our goal to raise more money every year to ensure that we're able to continue to invest in new research discoveries. Our researchers are committed to discovering how to prevent and or cure these devastating diseases. And until that day comes, they are searching to find ways to slow the progression and enhance the lives of those impacted.
Volunteer chapters are the heart of Muscular Dystrophy Canada.
They include groups of volunteers that may have a neuromuscular disorder themselves, their families and their friends. We have firefighters and other community-minded people all working together to make a difference. The purpose of us all coming together is to offer support to one another. We host educational events and we have guest speakers. We advocate for change and we do a lot of local fundraising. All in all, it's a lot of fun. Who wouldn't want to be part of their local chapter? The benefits are endless. From raising funds to gaining a network of support to learning about how to improve the quality of life while living with a neuromuscular disorder to making friends and having fun. Get involved today and become an ambassador of hope.
Muscular dystrophy in Canada relies heavily on corporate and individual donations due to the fact that we receive very little from the various government sources.
There are many ways that you can actively raise funds for Muscular Dystrophy Canada. The funds that you raise help provide research and much-needed services for people with neuromuscular disorders. Muscular Dystrophy Canada events also raise awareness about these disorders and get entire communities involved.
Beautiful day for a walk for muscular dystrophy. I want to thank everybody for coming out.
Come out with your friends and your family, co-workers to come and join us and just bring an atmosphere of fun and enjoyment.
Canadian firefighters across the country have supported Muscular Dystrophy Canada in many ways.
We're the organization's strongest supporters, advocates, and fundraisers. We give hope to the more than 50,000 people across Canada that are affected by neuromuscular disorders. People look at firefighters as heroes. Who are the real heroes here? It's the families. It's the ones that experience muscular dystrophy, the caregivers, the moms and dads. Those are the ones that are the heroes. And I want to be affiliated with heroes. They reach out to me, they make me a better person. And there's numerous families that I'm so close to now, and I try and encourage other firefighters to experience what I feel when I'm loved by the ones that need us the most.
Lend your support.
Welcome back to the Wheelchair Dare special here on Fuse Logic TV and presented in association with Muscular Dystrophy Canada. I'm your host, Michael Kryton. Thank you for joining us. We're raising awareness about the Wheelchair Dare event, and if you'd like to go to the website, you can get more information at muscle.ca. You can enter the event for your region, Edmonton or Calgary or wherever you may be in Canada. You can also donate at the site, muscle.ca. You can also donate by texting. If you text CHAIR to 30333, you can donate $5. And we're back with my special guest, very special, just made it through traffic in the last minute nick of time, Nancy Cumming, the Vice Chair of the Board, Muscular Dystrophy Canada. I'm really interested now because you've got the background on the Wheelchair Dare event. I understand it's been in Calgary 3 years in terms of the Western region. Can you give me some background as to where the event came from, where the inspiration came from, and kind of walk us through that?
Sure. Well, the event originated with an amazing man called Kevin Harrison. Kevin came up with this idea and started the concept a few years ago, and each year it grows and moves into further cities, and it's greatly successful. So kudos to Kevin for his idea.
As a matter of fact, we'll be showing some photos in just a couple of seconds. So the event has grown significantly. Do you have a sense of how much it's grown since its first inception? Because I know that more and more corporations are getting on board. Have you been able to track the momentum that you've built over the last few years?
Well, I can speak to Edmonton, which is my city, and we are in the second year of Wheelchair Dare for Edmonton, and it's probably quadrupled in size in terms of the number of participants, and hopefully that will result in increased funding as well.
Well, that obviously is evidence of awareness. We see the photos that I have on my laptop. Evan, take a look at just some photos that are connected to the event, showing obviously. Now, I don't know who this is. I don't know. Are you familiar with this person?
Well, sorry, my eyes are too bad. I can't recognize who it is.
No, that's all right. But these are some photos taken from the event, I think, last year in 2010. Obviously, a lot of corporations involved. I think that certainly the numbers are telling us that there is a growing awareness around muscular dystrophy. True?
I believe so, yes.
And so obviously with the growth of the events, I imagine that more and more corporations are jumping on board. We're going to be speaking to some of those corporations that are here. Bernie Kollman is the chair of the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce, is going to be speaking to it. Maybe let's take a deeper look now. What is your connection to muscular dystrophy? Where did that connection happen?
Well, my connection started about 22 years ago, and at that time my family received some rather startling news, and that was that my nephew had been just diagnosed with what's called Duchenne muscular dystrophy. So he was 3 years old at the time, and he is now 25, and he is an amazing young man. In fact, right now I think he's in Turkey right now on a cruise. I think that's where they are at this moment in time. So that has been my involvement for 22 years, and with Wheelchair Dare, my nephew Garrett has been in a wheelchair for a number of years. So it was an opportunity for me to have a small realization of what it's like to spend time in a wheelchair. And it's difficult. It's a challenge.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned Duchenne, because Kelly Hyde also has a nephew who has the same. And we talked about I didn't realize there were 100 different kinds of
Absolutely.
dystrophy.
Yeah, they affect people of all ages. Duchenne happens to be the most severe form of muscular dystrophy.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to rush through traffic and join us.
My pleasure.
We've got quite an agenda to get through, and I hope that the event this year, of course, I imagine is going to be a great success. And from the people that I know in the corporate circles, is a very, very focused effort being made to participate, and it's good to see people obviously taking it very seriously. And given the number of causes that are out there, it's good to see that muscular dystrophy is doing well within that field. Maybe that's a question I asked. Do you find that that's quite the challenge in terms of other other illnesses and so on that are out there that are also vying for attention? Do you find that is difficult to deal with, or do you just kind of not really pay attention to those kinds of things and just focus on your own agenda?
Well, we do focus on our cause, but there's no doubt that we do have our challenges, because muscular dystrophy isn't necessarily a well-known disease, and it affects a certain number of people. So when you're competing with other charities, it does become difficult. So many are so worthy, but we stay with our program and move forward, and we'll continue to raise awareness for muscular dystrophy, and hopefully Wheelchair Dare will continue to grow each year.
Well, Fuse Logic TV is doing what it can in this hour to help out, and actually thanks to Ruth Kelly, who kind of inspired us to get involved. And Nancy, thank you so much for taking the challenge of coming out in what is rude traffic in Edmonton. And that is definitely a problem these days. Nancy Cumming is the vice chair of the board, Muscular Dystrophy Canada, and is certainly an integral part of what's going on with Wheelchair Dare 2011 in Edmonton and in Alberta. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to have a great discussion with Bernie Kollman, who is the chair of the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce, so don't go away.
Hello, I'm Walter Schwamby, executive producer of Fuse Logic TV, and I'm here to tell you about an exciting new show called Gov2. Tune in to learn more about what's happening in government around the world. We're telling your stories. If you're innovating in government, using technologies that you didn't use before, we want to hear about it. Contact us at fuselogic.tv and tune in every Thursday afternoon at 1:30 to watch the show and participate. We'll see you then.
Welcome back. It's Muscular Dystrophy Canada and the Wheelchair Dare here on Fuse Logic TV. I'm your host, Michael Kryton, and I'm joined by a good friend, someone who I've had a chance to tell her what to do, even if it was only for about 45 seconds or so, and that was at the Chamber Ball in the past year. Bernie Kollman, who is the chair of the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce and also Vice President, Public Sector, Alberta, IBM Canada Limited, wearing two hats. So how are your wheelchair skills coming along?
Well, I have to tell you, Michael, I haven't been practicing, and as the date approaches, I'm in my chair next week, I'm starting to worry about my upper body strength and the workout I'm going to have, but a friend of mine told me gloves are the key. So I will be wearing gloves, and I think I'll be taking people to meetings with me. I might cheat a bit and get some help moving from meeting to meeting if I can encourage someone to help me wheel my chair. So you're going to have a special outfit, you're going to be all decked out for this, all the sports stuff that you need, because I understand it's a pretty hard thing to do. Well, now you're really scaring me because I didn't know it was going to be that hard. I was planning to wear business attire and go about my business day. And one of the things I think that I'll learn through this is how accessible our building is. We do have some of our employees that are in a wheelchair, or a employee in a wheelchair currently, and understand how accessible our building is, how accessible some of my clients' buildings are. And I do have a meeting at the Chamber that day, so I will find out how accessible the Chamber of Commerce is. Oh, who's that hunched over walking? Oh, that's Bernie. She's just come back from Wheelchair Dare. Let's step back a bit now and look at the bigger picture. How did you and the Chamber become connected with this particular challenge, the Wheelchair Dare? Well, actually, it was a personal ask from Nancy Cumming, who is very involved in muscular dystrophy, and I believe she's on this show as well. Right. Yep. And she approached me last year, and I was going to be out of the country, so I couldn't do it. And Nancy's quite persistent, so she remembered this year. And I thought about the connection with the Chamber, and one of our strategic priorities is workforce development. And with the impending labor shortage that we're all anticipating, we really need to leverage all aspects of the workforce. That includes persons with disabilities, that includes the Aboriginal community, that includes all of the diverse members of our workforce, as well as retaining our youth. So I thought this would be a good way to get the visual message out, become personally more familiar with what persons with disabilities deal with when they're in a wheelchair, as well as to get the message out about why this is important to business and to the Chamber of Commerce. Well, it seems this event is certainly gaining some momentum, and I know everyone's looking forward to it this year. And, of course, we wanted to jump on board and lend a hand. By the way, you can donate. If you read the graphic on the screen, you'll be able to either text your donation in. You can certainly go to muscle.ca, and there's information there as well. My guest, Bernie Kollman, we're talking about muscular dystrophy. What sense do you get of the level of awareness that there is for muscular dystrophy out there in the community? I don't think it's very high. I think people obviously are aware when they see people in a wheelchair, but I think they don't understand, what the conditions are that put a person there. And I think it doesn't matter why you're there. I think you face some of the same challenges. And so I think it's important both to raise money for this cause, but to also to raise money and awareness for, people with disabilities in general. Absolutely. Well, now you already alluded to the fact that that one of the things you're going to learn is where all the sore muscles are. What else do you think you'll get out of this event? Well, people have told me that when you're in a different position or when people look at you differently. So I expect that I'll get some looks, probably from people who know me and see me in a wheelchair. But I think I'll experience how other people feel, in general. You obviously have a different outlook when you're at that height all day long. So, I think that I'll learn that. And as I said, accessibility both of our building, washroom facilities, how difficult it is to get in and out of the parkade. I think those are the things that I'm going to learn. Well, one of the things we learned just in getting ready for the show is the fact that we suddenly realized we're on the second floor. And suddenly we're going, uh-oh. Mm-hmm. And now immediately I just start thinking, okay, what do we do? Buy the downstairs floor? But at the same time looking at Skype, and we're actually Skyping in interviews for those people who aren't going to be able to get up here. How well is Edmonton doing specifically, in your opinion, in terms of accessibility? Well, I'll give you a better sense. I mean, that's a great question, and it's something that you learn when you're in a wheelchair for a day. I'm not sure that people pay enough attention. I mean, certainly in our workplace, we, adhere to the building codes. And as I mentioned, we have someone on our staff who is in a wheelchair. Mm-hmm. So certainly everything is accessible for her. But I'm not sure how conscious other companies are, how other businesses. I guess I'll find out.
Now, what's the fundraising goal for your team? Because I imagine you've got a good. Who's on your team?
Well, it started out with me, and I went to our executive committee at the chamber, and I floated the idea, and Ken Barry, who's our vice chair, jumped up right away and said he thought that this would be an interesting thing to do and to experience. And then I was talking to Ruth Kelly and actually asking her to pledge me, and she was saying it was something she thought she should always do, and so she signed up for the team. And the term chamber chairs came from there because, of course, Ruth was our chair in 2005, Ken will be chair in 2012, and I'm the current chair. So the idea just blossomed. We need to get a few more of our chamber chairs engaged. And, of course, it's a very active part of our community. We put the ask out to about 10 past chairs, and we got Greg Christensen signed up, Patrick LaForge, and Janet Riopel.
All the usual suspects.
Yeah, and great sports about it. And they jumped in with great enthusiasm.
Well,
so.
The process, if I can share this with you, I don't know if you know, but Ruth Kelly kind of was the spark in terms of us putting together this program today. And
say Ruth doesn't do anything part way, and as you know, she is the past chair of the chamber in 2005, and she's also the publisher of Alberta Venture magazine, and just a real force in our community. And when she does something, she does it all the way.
Absolutely.
And so she certainly, we appreciate the media sponsorship that she got for muscular dystrophy by doing this. She also really sparked our team to life. We started with a very modest goal, and she challenged each one of us and sparked us along to raise over $55,000 for muscular dystrophy. And I have to add that the team, the record for the team in Canada previously had been a team out of Toronto that had raised 55, and we surpassed that. So we're really proud of what our team has done, and we've got a few side bets that she encouraged us to make, and we will see who's paying those debts at the end amongst our team.
So that's your number, and probably more to come yet then.
Yeah, well, we still haven't been in our chairs. We're going to be in our chairs next week. We'll wrap up by the end of next week. And so we're very enthused to see if anybody does want to sponsor us. We'd love to see you sponsor the Chamber Chairs team for muscular dystrophy.
Well, if I know anything about the Edmonton Chamber Chairs, they are very, very, very committed and dedicated people. So I'm sure it's going to be fun and very productive, and I appreciate you joining us on the show. Bernie Kollman, who is the current chair of the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce and the Vice President Public Sector Alberta of IBM Canada Limited, also involved with Muscular Dystrophy Canada and the Wheelchair Dare Event 2011. Bernie, thank you so much for joining us on Fuse Logic TV.
Thanks, Michael.
We'll be back with more.
Hello, I'm Walter Schwabe. I'm the executive producer of Fuse Logic TV and the Sun-Times host of Alberta Live. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you, our online audience, for tuning into our shows and for taking the time to talk to us online. As a result, you're helping to create a new phenomenon in live web TV here in Canada. Our audiences across all of our shows continue to grow by leaps and bounds, and Fuse Logic TV is well on our way to reaching and surpassing 1 million viewer minutes watched. To this point, you've helped us reach over 1,600 cities with our live shows as we continue to tell stories that aren't being told. And of course, it helps to have great guests and engaging conversation for you to participate in. So if you have a show idea or concept that you would like us to cover, head to fuselogic.tv. Let us know what your idea is. You never know, you might be on one of our shows.
It's the Wheelchair Dare Event Special here on Fuse Logic TV, presented in association with Muscular Dystrophy Canada, and I'm learning an awful lot, and I hope you do too. And in fact, you can learn more by going to muscle.ca to find out more about the event and how you can get involved. As well, I also encourage you to donate. You can do that at the website. You can also donate by texting the word chair to 30333, and you can make a donation of $5. Now we're going to turn things into the corporate context of getting involved. We have two very interesting gentlemen who have been very involved. Darcy Pawliuk to my immediate left is the sales manager, Prairie region of Bell Business Markets, and to his left, which would be your right, my left is his. The guy over here is Chris Wein, and he is the president of UBG Multifamily Operations. That would be Unity Builders, an interesting story there. So, gentlemen, I'll touch upon it one at a time because I know, Chris, your company has been involved this year. There's going to be a bit of a different wrinkle.
Yes.
But I'd like to maybe give Darcy the floor here and say, let's talk about the corporate involvement. And by the way, how are your wheelchair manipulation skills?
You know, Michael, this is actually the second year that I've been involved here in Edmonton. We did it last year to kind of kick off the campaign for Bell's presence here in the West, and actually Bell Canada has been doing it nationally. So we've been doing it all across the major centers across the country. So I had a little practice last year, and let me tell you, it was a lot tougher than I expected. Some muscles were used that I hadn't used in a while.
That's something I'm thinking about, because ultimately, of course, people are going to want to get involved. It's an important cause. But the reality would be that, you know, you're approached for the first time and say, okay, here's what you have to do. So in getting people involved at Bell on your team, did you find you had to kind of pull teeth a little bit, or were people, they were intrigued? I mean, how did the solicitation of involvement go?
Let's say I used both tactics, right? There were a lot of people, and I had 5 wonderful people who quickly put up their hands and volunteered and worked with me through the whole campaign last year, and I'm happy to say all 5 are back with me again this year.
Oh, great.
But to spice it up a little bit, last year we actually took a break over the lunch hour and had other people come in and kind of bullied them into trying different tasks.
Yeah.
And it's amazing the feedback we got. We had them do some very simple tasks like go to the washroom. Not actually use the washroom, but just try and get in there.
Just get there.
Double doors,
yep.
A hazard. We had one person who got stuck between double doors in the wheelchair. They could not get themselves out.
An eye-opener for sure. I mean, I wouldn't have even thought about it. I mean, I think of the obvious, stairs, those kinds of things, but double doors, okay, that's something I would have never thought of.
Double doors in the washroom were bad.
Yeah.
The other one was we asked somebody to pop a bag of popcorn in the microwave, and our kitchens in our offices are situated such that the microwave is about 5 feet in the air. So this poor gentleman who I picked on specifically had to try and find a way to reach it. Couldn't do it. Could not.
Now, as a result of those exercises, do you make changes? Like, if it's that eye-opener, certainly going, all right, we have to make this change.
The microwaves are down on the counters.
Well, even for us here at Fuselogic TV, we're on the 2nd floor, and suddenly, halfway through the project process, we went, we're on the 2nd floor, and we don't have an elevator, we just have stairs, what are we going to do? And realize that anyone we would have to talk to was an MDC client, so we'd have to Skype them in. Of course, now we're looking at facilities where we're thinking, yeah, we've got to get on the ground floor, because the reality is we isolate people who are in a situation that if they're in a wheelchair, they're never going to be able to get up here unless, of course, there's a huge amount of assistance. Chris, let's turn things over to you for a bit now. Now, I understand your company, of course, has been involved in the past, but this year you're taking a slightly different turn. I understand it's a kind of a one-man effort, and maybe you can tell us about that.
Sure. I've been involved with muscular dystrophy for a few years. One of my relatives is diagnosed. So my company and I got involved in chairware, which was fantastic, and actually raised a lot of money last year. And then Muscular Dystrophy Canada approached and said, listen, you seem to be doing well with raising money. Is it possible that we could look at doing a broader campaign that doesn't necessarily involve such a narrow time frame and doesn't involve necessarily just the chairs? So we've gone out on a more personal appeal, and what they asked me to do is go into my network of friends and colleagues and associates and such, and select kind of a board of governors. So I've come up with 5 individuals. I'm the chair of it. And we're reaching out, and they're all businessmen who are in, a role of president or vice president or owner, and all of us are reaching out to all of our contacts. So we're sending out some, by the time we're all said and done, we'll probably send out 5,000 to 6,000 letters, basically, explaining the disease, explaining what we're trying to do, and asking for support. So it's just a way to blanket a much broader audience, and that's just started. And so far, each governor has come up with about 2,000 people that we're appealing to. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, and we would hope the effects of that will last over the next 3 months. Versus with the chair, we did exceptionally well, but it was a very short, sort of 2 or 3 week campaign versus a 3 or 4 month campaign.
I guess that sort of speaks to be the difference in the world you want to be, right?
Exactly.
Just out of curiosity, and eventually we'll get back to talking numbers and what the goals are individually that you guys have for your teams, but you are president of a building company.
Yes.
So how has your experience impacted on the direction your design and construction of what you build has taken? What kind of impact?
Sure. Well, what we do, we build a lot of apartments, so condominium, apartment-style condominiums and such. And it's interesting because we also build some commercial buildings, including the office. We have a 80,000 square foot office in Calgary that we're housed in, and that's where my team and I did the wheelchair challenge, and it was quite a disaster. I can't get from the parkade up into the main floor, parts of our main floor at different levels. We had a lot of stair challenges. So certainly going forward, and definitely in all the homes that we're building and the condominiums, we very much look to accessibility, and so much so that in certain neighborhoods and certain areas, we even are creating accessible units. So I'm doing projects right now where we try and design at least 15 to 20% of the units. So maybe out of a 200-unit project, that'd be almost 50 units, where it's fully accessible. So even inside the unit, bathrooms are designed so that persons with wheelchairs could live there full time and get anywhere inside or outside the building or through their unit. And that's becoming more and more the trend, and we're seeing it, not just with respect to conditions like muscular dystrophy, but also with an aging population. People are very concerned with stairs and mobility and so on.
Now, is the onus on the developers and the builders to make those changes? How much of it is in code at this point?
There is some in code, but it's amazing how much isn't in the code. So a lot of it is on the onus of the developers, the builders, or the end purchasers or owners of the buildings. Really the code is designed around public buildings, and residences and private offices are still considered to be private, and therefore they're not forced into accessibility. But in the building community, we call something called universal design, and that's really what we're working toward, which means it's designed for everyone, regardless of size, mobility, modality, all of that type of thing. So.
I guess I want to ask Darcy this, so I guess I have to ask you too. I'm just fair, right? How are your wheelchair skills?
It was interesting, actually. I work out every second day, and I run marathons. I consider myself an athlete, and it's the same as Darcy. It's something else when you start using those different muscles. You're just not used to it.
Yeah, I see Darcy and I are in the same club. Our big thing's couches, potatoes and couches.
Absolutely,
they go together. Okay, goals. What's your goal, Darcy? What's your team expecting to do this year?
Well, in Alberta last year, again, first year, we did over $15,000, and we're hoping to make it $20,000 this year.
Excellent. Your goal?
Yeah, last year I believe we ended up with around that $25,000 mark. With this new campaign, we would hope to double that, if not triple. So something in the $50,000 to $75,000 range.
Okay, so folks, we've got a long way to go for Fuse Logic TV because we're asking you to text $5 at a time. So I would like about 10,000 of you out there. If you could just maybe dial chair in at 30333, and we'll say we did it right here together. Okay? This is the Wheelchair Dare event special for Muscular Dystrophy Canada. I want to thank my guest, Darcy Pawliuk, the sales manager, Prairie Region for Bell Business. Thank you very much for coming along. And Chris, good luck with your solo effort this year, the president of UBG Multifamily Operations Utility Builders. You're watching Fuse Logic TV. When we come back, we're going to hear a great story from a firefighter, so don't go away.
Don Norris. I will be hosting a new brand of online television. The show is called Brandvertising, and it's an inside look at the world of branding and advertising. Every day we're exposed to thousands of messages, images, and symbols through advertising. How do they get created? Who are the people that create these brands, and how do they do it? Brandvertising is the half-hour show that will explore this relatively secret industry. I will talk with people who have made an impact in the marketing and advertising industry at all levels and from all over the world. I will look at some of the work that stands out today and even look back at some of the impactful work of the past that I believe still stands the test of time. So join me, Don Norris, for Brandvertising, right here on Fuse Logic TV.
Welcome back to Fuse Logic TV and the Wheelchair Dare special. We're happy to be doing this for Muscular Dystrophy Canada. And as I mentioned before, you can find out a lot more information about the event at their website, muscle.ca. It's clearly marked, and you can enter to participate in the event, and it'll be an eye-opener. If you're in Edmonton, you can certainly click into Edmonton or Calgary, wherever you are. The dollars that are raised are used in Alberta context, which means that communities in Alberta will benefit. It's not specifically Edmonton versus Calgary or any other region in the province. I'm very pleased to have a firefighter, a guy who's much fitter than I am. It's the only thing that makes me jealous. But Paul McGonigal is an MDC advocate and has been for some time, a member of the board since 2008, and an Edmonton firefighter since 1992. So you've been fighting the good cause in all kinds of ways for many, many years. There's a really, and I'm talking to Kelly Hyde, she really began to tell me the story of how things happen. Now, there's an interesting story about firefighters and muscular dystrophy and how that got connected. Are you familiar with that story yourself?
I am, Michael.
I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, it is a nice story, and I share it a lot. Back in 1953, there was a family in Boston, and the man came to a fire hall and said, I have 2 boys that have muscular dystrophy, and they're not expected to live past the age of 20. Can you help us? And that's what we do. Firefighters help. So what we did, what the firefighters did, they went door to door with canisters, and they raised about $5,000. Then from there, they went and approached the president of the International Association of Firefighters and asked for some support. And the president said, yes, we will support this cause. And in 1954, both in the United States and Canada, they declared that muscular dystrophy will be the firefighter charity of choice until there's a cure. So that's why I'm sitting here today. Obviously, there's no cure, but it is a neat story how it started, and we need to find a cure one day.
Well, that's an amazing volume of involvement when you think about it. Because they're firefighters. How many firefighters would you say there are in North America?
Well, I would have to say, just in the union, not talking volunteer firefighters who are also very much involved, but over 300,000 firefighters.
That's amazing. What a great story that is.
Yeah,
what a wonderful story. Now, what about your connection to muscular dystrophy? Where did that begin?
You know, Michael, it was probably about 8 years ago. Quite similar. There was a family that approached our union and asked for some support because Edmonton started raising funds for muscular dystrophy in about 1971. And so this family came and talked to our president. I was asked to be part of this meeting, and the family came and asked if Edmonton could get back on board raising some funds and awareness for this charity. And of course the president said yes, and he pointed his finger at me and he said, Paul, I want you to lead this role. And here we are today.
Well, and knowing the kind of commitment, we can take a look at some of the photos that I was provided with, some great photos of the firefighters being involved. I imagine it's probably no problem whatsoever to get any of your colleagues to the table on your team. Is it the same team that you pretty much have, or do you have to fight other guys off, or how does that work for your team?
You know, the committee members are volunteering as well, and hats off to them because everybody's busy. But, yeah, we have a lot of firefighters that want to participate in the events that we have, especially our rooftop camp out. You know, it's quite a unique event that we have now, and it's spreading throughout Canada. But we do several charity events, and the guys are really good to step up to the plate. Up to the plate for this firefighter charity, and the support that we get is just incredible.
I guess in all fairness, I know you guys are pretty physically fit, so I don't know if you have an advantage. So how are your team's wheelchair skills?
Well, you know what, Michael, I did participate in a few walks and 10-kilometer walks, and I did them in wheelchairs, and you do need to train. Like, my hats go off to any individual that's having to get around in a wheelchair, because it is very, very difficult. And there's a picture of me in that walk, and it snowed the night before.
You look like
so
you're
it was
kind of struggling.
Yeah, it was very difficult. It felt like my shoulders were going to fall off after that.
And now this photo is on the internet forever and ever and ever. Now, I imagine, especially as a firefighter, you've seen a lot of situations in terms of accessibility. Have you run into situations where people who are confined to a wheelchair have been caught in as a result of fire, or have you been fortunate enough not to run into that?
Unfortunately, yes, we have.
All the more reason why I think to raise awareness it becomes critical in terms of muscular dystrophy, because I don't think Well, in talking to Chris Wein, for example, it's interesting to note that there's not necessarily that much in the code. There is stuff in the building code, but yet there's a lot of catch-up that we have to do. I mean, even for us being involved in this event, as I mentioned, it finally hit us that, oh my goodness, we're on a second floor, and there's no access, literally no access whatsoever. So what's the goal for your team this year then in the event? Where are you pegging your number?
Well, as for ourselves, the firefighters, we don't participate in the chairwear, but what we do is we go around and support the Nancy Cummings and the Darcy Pawliuks, and we're there to support them and in any way we can. So we're out there to be behind the scenes cheering for them to raise as much money as possible.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today, and our hats off to the firefighters in North America who are supporting the cause, and hopefully today we've contributed a little bit of something. And again, I encourage you to go to muscle.ca to make your donation. You can also get involved in the Wheelchair Dare event and right there on the site. And if you'd like to make a $5 donation, we encourage you to do so by texting CHAIR at 30333. We've got more to come. We're going to be talking to a muscular dystrophy client, and we're going to get an inside look at what it is to live with muscular dystrophy. I'd like to thank Paul McGonigal, the advocate here in the area, member of the board since 2008, a firefighter. And thank you so much. We're very proud of the work that you guys do, and we appreciate the support that you give to muscular dystrophy as well.
Thanks for allowing us to come in here and spread the word.
Oh, thank you. Gary's going to be Skyping in and telling his story when we come back. Wheelchair Dare event. We've been talking about it for a little over almost close to an hour now. It's been quite an exciting time, interesting stories, and really an eye-opener. Kelly Hyde is back with me, the Alberta Manager of Corporate and Individual Giving for Muscular Dystrophy Canada. Thanks for staying with us, and we're going to have a very special guest in just a moment, someone who is living with muscular dystrophy, very close to them, and we'll be Skyping in from Calgary. I think that ultimately it's amazing the scope of impact one begins to realize between, accessibility and awareness. It's amazing what the firefighters do. What a great story that is.
Absolutely.
That, who would have thought that by going to the firefighter down the street in your community that it would start that kind of momentum. Mm-hmm. I don't know, Evan, are we ready? Okay, I'm pleased to welcome Garry Bell, who is a Muscular Dystrophy Canada client and volunteer. He's also the assistant principal at Beiseker Community School. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, Garry. Did I?
You did well. You did well. Yes, Beiseker. Yeah.
I've got to take our earbuds. That's what I love about internet TV is you suddenly your lips are moving, but I can't hear you. Sorry, are you there, Garry? Yes, I was working.
Yeah, you pronounced it right, Beiseker.
And here you go, Beiseker. Good. I'm going to help Kelly here as we perform technical expertise on this program now. How to install an earbud. I have to get a new set of ears because these earbuds keep falling out. Garry, obviously, I understand that. Maybe tell us your story and your connection to muscular dystrophy in your family.
Sure. My connection actually, interestingly enough, didn't start with a family member, but I was a teacher at Ralph McCall School in Airdrie. Both my children attend there now. And I taught grade 8. And at the beginning of the year, a student was coming in to my classroom who had Duchenne muscular dystrophy. And I was encouraged, as with all of my students with special needs, I did a lot of background reading and research on what muscular dystrophy was and how it affected the body. And to be frank, it's sad. It saddened me to think of the muscles slowly deteriorating and a shortened lifespan. Ironically enough, about midway through the school year with a student, our son, we know, is just, he wasn't jumping quite right. He wasn't running quite right. And so we did make an appointment at the Children's to have him assessed. And they did some blood work, and it came back that he did have a form of muscular dystrophy. So it was just, sort of 2 in 1 that year, and it was overwhelming. Unfortunately, at the end of that school year, the last week of school, Elliot Kettler was his name. He unfortunately passed away from complications with muscular dystrophy. That was the first time I had lost a student as a teacher, my 14 years of teaching, and it was sort of really was awakening to think of my son perhaps being in the same boat one day. To this day, to Ralph McCall's credit, they run a memorial, a Christmas craft sale. All proceeds go to muscular dystrophy, and I've been asked to once again give a Elliot Kettler Memorial Award at their rewards banquet this coming June 24th. So my son actually, we were sort of the lesser of two evils with muscular dystrophy is Becker's, and it's a little bit lesser in terms of what it does to the body in terms of compared to Duchenne muscular dystrophy, and so it doesn't shorten the life as much, but again, many of the same symptoms where the muscles just don't repair, and there's a continual deterioration of the muscle groups. So that's my story in a nutshell.
Certainly a personal experience with anything, and suddenly it becomes so awakened. I'm just curious, and I don't know if you're able to speak to this at all, but would you say that within the educational system in general, perhaps Alberta, because one can't speak to the whole country, would you say that there's a general awareness in education around muscular dystrophy, or would you find that there's the interests are all over the place? What can you tell us from that standpoint?
I think there's such a wide variety of disabilities that students come into the education system with nowadays. It's certainly not predominant in terms of many teachers being aware of it, other than those teachers that have students that do suffer from it. And certainly I can speak in terms of just the teachers I know. Alberta has amazing teachers who will go to the ends to ensure that the children with a broad range of disabilities do have their needs met. And of course, it's somewhat complicated by government funding, but nonetheless, we're not deterred by ensuring that we meet their needs as best we can in the classroom.
Maybe, Kelly, I'd like to put this to you on, again, I don't know if I'm putting you on the spot, but what kinds of, are there programs that are being disseminated through education via Muscular Dystrophy Canada? Do they have programs going through schools?
There has been. We had a Muscle Facts program, and often it's when there is a child living with muscular dystrophy that's in that classroom, someone will come in and speak to not just what that child's experienced, but disability in general and the impact of that. If I tailor it specifically to Wheelchair Dare, in the last 2 years in Calgary, we've had a student, one student last year in elementary school that spent the day in a chair. He heard the radio ad and was intrigued, and so the school allowed us to come in and speak to the entire school. And this year we had 4 junior high girls who knew a young boy who's impacted in Calgary, and so the school allowed us to come to speak to the entire school. So we take advantage of those opportunities when we have them, and we have had formal programs in the past as well. So even though Wheelchair Dare is really targeted to corporations, when we do have an opportunity to engage a student or a student's excited about being involved, we absolutely encourage them every way we can. So.
Now, is your school involved in the Wheelchair Dare event?
We haven't been so far. But it's something that we're working towards. Currently, we do have 2 children in wheelchairs at Beiseker Community School, and none of them are muscular dystrophy related. But again, it speaks to what was said earlier in terms of just raising awareness to their daily lives, opening a locker, getting into a washroom, the everyday things. We do have an elevator, obviously, but it does impact their life, and so I'm looking forward to having the opportunity in the future too, as well, to step into a chair and try and bring some awareness and some momentum. And everybody always likes the assistant principal having a rough time, so. So I'm sure they'll be thrilled to see me, and it's a way to earn some money as well for a great cause.
Well, I know there are schools across the country that are getting, I think, more and more involved. As a matter of fact, on YouTube, there's, if you Google Wheelchair Dare Muscular Dystrophy Canada, you'll see a few clips on YouTube of students and teachers that are becoming involved. And Garry, I applaud what you're doing in your school, and I wish you and your family all the best in dealing with muscular dystrophy. At least we know that awareness is being raised, and certainly the Wheelchair Dare event is going to help that. Garry, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Have a great evening.
And bringing us almost to a close on what has been an incredibly interesting show for me, and when we come back, we'll wrap things up. You're watching the Wheelchair Dare special on Logic TV. Again, to donate, you can go to muscle.ca to get involved in the Wheelchair Dare event. By the way, the dates of that are?
Well, we've completed Calgary, but I'm in Calgary, so you can still do it any time this month or next. And in Edmonton here, we're starting on the 13th, and we're going right to the 27th. But we're very flexible. We have wheelchairs donated by Calgary Co-op Home Healthcare, and we have some here and some in Calgary. So.
And it doesn't take very much of a donation to get involved and have the opportunity to discover what life is when you don't have everything that many of us do take for granted. So we'll wrap things up. Don't go away. By the way, to make your donation by text of $5, you can text the word chair to 30333. We'll wrap up when we come back.
Hello, I'm Walter Schwabe, executive producer of Fuse Logic TV. I'm pleased to announce that we have established a relationship with our colleagues at Inverness TV in Scotland. In connecting our resources, we will be sharing programs and developing projects that will help viewers enjoy even more stories that are not being told, while helping business progress on both sides of the Atlantic. By sharing our shows, Fuse Logic TV viewers will be exposed to more stories from Scotland and Europe, and our overseas friends will find out more about our world through our programs. This is a unique relationship on the web where 2 independent internet-based TV networks collaborate. We invite you to learn more about this exciting new venture by visiting fuselogic.tv and inverness.tv.net. I'm Walter Schwabe.
You're watching Fuse Logic TV and the Wheelchair Dare special, presented in association with Muscular Dystrophy Canada. My guest, Kelly Hyde, who is very much involved, of course, with Muscular Dystrophy Canada here in Alberta. I got a lot of people to thank who told us some great stories. Nancy Cumming, the Vice Chair of the Board, Muscular Dystrophy Canada. I'd like to thank Darcy Pawliuk, the Sales Manager, Prairie Region, Bell Business Markets. Christopher Wein, President, UBG Multifamily Operations. Bernie Kollman, the Chair of the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce and Vice President, Public Sector, Alberta of IBM Canada. Paul McGonigal, MDC Advocate, member of the board since 2008. Everybody came out to the party to support, and a great firefighter since 1992. And Garry Bell, Muscular Dystrophy Canada client and volunteer. He's an assistant principal at Beiseker Community School. And, of course, you, Kelly Hyde, for working with me for the past, what has it been, about 4 or 6 weeks or so that we've been putting this together, and what a great result. And I just want to thank you and your team for being able to contact everyone, and pretty much everyone came out that we asked, and I hope that through Fuse Logic TV that we've maybe contributed something, and the show will be in demand, or if we want to go to the future now, is on demand, and we'll be playing it as long as we can, and hopefully you'll you can send everyone that you feel should see it to our site to watch it.
Well, and on behalf of Muscular Dystrophy Canada, Michael, we'd like to thank you and everyone at Pawliuk TV. I think you heard it a number of times reiterated today that a lot of people don't know about muscular dystrophy. It is considered an orphan disease, and so any type of awareness is really key for us, and you really can't raise funds until you raise awareness, and so both are so important for us, and so we really appreciate the opportunity, and to Ruth Kelly for approaching you.
Yeah, for lighting the fire and giving us the motivation, and I'm going to be interested to see some of the results of some of the wheelchair dare event teams and how they do. In terms of the team here at Pawliuk, I guess I'd like to thank them too. Maria Politi, our project manager, who has helped arrange and coordinate all of the things that we need to get everybody in the chair next to me as well. Evan Adams, who is our technical producer, who's behind the scenes, doing everything possible to make sure that we can see and hear what we're doing today. And to all of you out there, again, I want to remind you, please go to muscle.ca. You can still get involved in the event for this month, and as well, you can make a donation there on the site. And again, encouraging you to text $5, if you would, by texting the word chair to 30333. I really do encourage people to go to the site because it's very comprehensive. If you're dealing with the reality of muscular dystrophy in the early stages in your circle of life, the Muscular Dystrophy Canada site definitely is a wonderful, wonderful source of information in terms of resources, in terms of the most common questions that people ask, and I encourage you to visit it and do what you can to support it. So on behalf of Kelly Hyde and myself, I'd like to thank you for joining us on the Wheelchair Dare special here on Pawliuk TV. Take care and do what you can to support your community.